Okay, before we go, does anyone need to use the bathroom?
Nope.
Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
You're sure you're sure?
Yep.
There are some things in life you can't trust.
Mommy?
Oh, come on. And there are some things you can, like the HP Smart Tank printer. With up to 2 years of ink included and outstanding print quality, you can always rely on the HP Smart Tank. From HP, America's most trusted printer brand. Available at Best Buy.
You're ready for a comeback. And with Purdue Global, you can do more than take classes. You can take charge of your story, of your career, of your life. Earn a degree you can be proud of and get an education employers respect. It's time, your time, not just to go back to school, but to come back and move forward with Purdue Global, Purdue's online university for working adults. Start your comeback at purdueglobal.edu.
He'll forget about the video game you gave him on his birthday.
Wow! Thanks, Grandpa!
But he'll never forget how you invested in his future with the UNest app.
Wow. Thanks, Grandpa.
The UNest app makes it easy for grandparents and family friends to give funds to a child's investment account for a limited time. Download the UNest app and use the code IHEART50 at sign-up to receive a $50 bonus when you fund your account. That's code IHEART50 when you sign up at unest.co for a $50 bonus. See terms and conditions at unest.co.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Soul Sessions. I'm your host, Amanda Rieger Green. Today, I am thrilled to have a client and dear friend joining me, Jade. We have worked together for the past handful of years. She is a woman who inspires my journey, and I'm sure will inspire yours through her practical use of intuition, development, personal development, relationship highs, lows, trials, tribulations, and how she has been able to walk through the hard things in life through the development of her intuition. And not only that, been able to tap into her gifts as a medium. We all have the gifts of mediumship. And sometimes when we begin to, not sometimes, often, when we begin to develop our intuition, we're able to expand it to connecting and communicating with our loved ones. And that is definitely part of her journey. Welcome, Jade.
Hello.
Tell us a little bit about you, about yourself, and also your interest in developing your intuition, what that looks like for you, what some of this journey has looked like, and how it shows up in your life.
I've always known there was something else out there. I never knew exactly what it was. Since I was a child, I could sense something. And back then it was never talked about. You never heard about mediumship or anything like that. Psychics were kind of foo-foo, like it was never spoken of, having this gift. And then when my mother passed away 12 years ago, I started asking for signs, receiving signs that she was okay. She had committed suicide, and I wanted something from her to let me know that she was okay. So I started asking for signs. I remember I went to a psychic, I think it was a week after she had passed away. I was living in Germany. My husband was in the Air Force, and I had flown back for her funeral. And my sister and I had gone to a psychic like a week after she had passed. I was like, I needed something to know that she was okay. And the psychic wasn't there. Like, we knocked on the door, nobody was there. I was so desperate to get a sign from her. And then 3 months later, I had this dream that it was her. I was with my brothers and sisters. We were children in the house that we grew up in. And her arm had come out from behind this curtain. And my little brother was there. He was probably like 4 or 5. And he went over and her arm came out from behind this curtain. And she had touched him and patted his arm like, I'm okay. Like, I'm on the other side. I'm okay. I woke up just hysterical. My husband's like, what is going on? Like, what's happening? And I couldn't even talk to him. It was her letting me know that she's on the other side. She's okay. She's still with us. That was a tremendous release for me, knowing that she was okay, even though she had committed suicide. Because you hear, these different stories like, oh, they go to hell. There's religions believe different things with suicide. And knowing that she was okay it helped me tremendously.
Thank you so much for sharing that and going deep and personal just out of the gates, because so much to me of developing intuition, being able to communicate and connect first and foremost with ourselves, with God, and then being able to get those signs from our loved ones, it's very personal, it's intimate. And a lot of times the search for, the quest the thirst for understanding all the intangible stuff usually happens in some kind of life event, life crisis. I know certainly I lost my dad at a young age. It was pretty traumatic. And there were many things around that experience that opened up my gifts and abilities. I didn't know how to use them for a long time after that, how to use them cohesively, coherently, in a practical way. But it's interesting how sometimes the trauma or the pain can be this psychic gateway to open up our spiritual journeys and start to dive into our gifts. So flash forward to your intuition and your intuitive development. We have been connected for 3 or 4 years now, and we've done some intensive soul work together, personal development work. But when I remember first connecting with you, there was this hunger to understand more about yourself. That was a big driving question for you, your wants, your needs, your desires. And there was so much covering all of that inner desire, inner truth, inner need, which is my journey too. And I find that for a lot of people, I'm sure it will resonate. But I remember it was like we had to pull a lot of stuff, off of you, off of your energy field, off of your experience to get down to the core of your spirit, your soul. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. And I think it all started again with the signs. I started asking for signs. And I think this is before I started talking to you. I would ask for signs in different ways of, messages from my mother, or messages from the other side, or messages from spirit guides, angels. Like, is this going to be okay? Am I going to make it through this? And I started receiving in numbers. Numbers were huge, 1111. 222, 333, 555. I started seeing all these numbers, and I was like, okay, this has to mean
you're
something.
Speaking my love language. Numbers are my love language as far as, and I say love language, but my psychic love language in terms of that's what has helped me tap into my intuition and drop into an altered state of consciousness is numbers. And it's not unusual for people to see numbers as signs. Of course, there are multiple ways that signs can come through, but I think that resonates with a lot of people because people do ask, what does it mean to see 1111 or repeating numbers, master numbers, angel numbers? And so much of it is the universe attempting to get our attention or responding to our call. And I find sometimes it's not even about the interpretation of what the numbers mean. There certainly is meaning and energy in those signs and those numbers, but it's noticing that you got a response. The universe, God, your soul is working to communicate and connect with you. So seeing the numbers in and of itself is the call and response.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think a lot of people, Jade, will resonate with that because a lot of people say, well, where do I even start? A good place is to start asking, start looking. Hey, show me a sign. Hey, God. Hey, soul. Hey, mom, if it is someone you've lost on the other side, show me a sign.
Yeah, I remember I had asked for a sign. It was like a ladybug. I try to think of random things that you're not going to see often. I asked for a ladybug, and it was like a week later, and I was driving, and this nursery had a sign that just said ladybug on it. That's it. And I was like, okay, is that a sign? And then I questioned it. I was like, well, that's a coincidence, And I'm driving, and not even a minute later, there's like a red Volkswagen Beetle that had the black dots on it that looked like a ladybug. And I was like, okay, that's my sign. They're letting me know.
First of all, that's amazing. But secondly, when we ask for signs, a lot of times the first time we get a sign, we're like, no, it's a coincidence. No, that's just me making that up. No, I'm just looking for this. And then usually spirit, God will say, oh, all right, fine. Here you go again. I mean, have you ever seen a Volkswagen painted as a ladybug again?
No, I have not. And I live in a smaller town too, where it's not common to see things like that. So
you got your sign. So as far as beginning to tap into that and, with the two of us working together in diving into your intuition, one of the things that I do know about you, and I've talked about this before, but we have different types of intuition. And a simple way to break it down are the clairs. Clair meaning clear, and then you add on the sensory response, clairvoyance, clear seeing, clear cognizance, clear knowing, cognition, clear sentience, clear feeling. That's similar to empathy, same kind of thing, being an empath, and clear audience, clear hearing. There are other forms of clairs, but these are the kind of the four cornerstones. And what I have found is usually when you know your go-to, your kind of your number one or your number two, it's easier to begin developing those, and the rest will follow, because we all have these gifts and abilities, but knowing what your go-to is. And one of the things that I know for you is you're very claircognizant, which is my primary gift of just knowing something. You have that gift of knowing, or putting a puzzle piece together that is seemingly, you might be reading a fiction book and it answers a question in your professional life. Can you speak to that a little bit about your claircognizance? And then I do want to talk about your clairsentience, because you are a very deep feeler, and that's been something that has been growing in you for the time that you and I have been connected.
Yeah, I think the claircognizance, I've always had that. Even, like I said, even since I was little, I knew that there was something else, and I could tap into that intuition where you just know, you feel it in your gut that something is right, something is wrong, and just believing in that and following that has been huge throughout my life. Growing up in having a traumatic childhood, I always just knew it helped me navigate through those difficult times and kind of led me on the right path throughout life, because I could have gone two different ways: down the path that my parents had chosen, or down the path that I'm currently on, doing the right thing, leading a good life, being a good human, and trying to have a good soul, while we're here on earth. I could have gone either way.
So you defaulted into growing rather than shrinking. And it doesn't mean that we all don't experience really difficult stages or when we stumble and fall, but having that courage to get back up and to grow and heal and learn.
Going places? Roam in style. Welcome to Roam Luggage, where your travel luggage transforms into a canvas for your unique style. Got the hint? Excellent. With Roam, you're the designer. Choose your colors and we will craft your bags with the finest materials in the world and assemble it in our U.S. workshop. Visit RoamLuggage.com today and get 10% off with the code ROAM4U. Buy 2 or more pieces and get an additional 10% off. That's ROAM luggage.com. Are you ready to move your career forward? Make your comeback with Purdue Global and get college credit for your work, school, life, or military experiences. With these credits, you may have already completed up to 75% of your undergraduate degree. You've worked hard to get where you are. It's time to get the recognition you deserve and earn a degree you'll be proud of, one that employers will trust and respect. When you take the next step in your life and career, make it count with Purdue Global, Purdue's online university for working adults. Start your comeback at purdueglobal.edu.
He'll forget about the video game you gave him on his birthday.
Wow! Thanks, Grandpa!
But he'll never forget how you invested in his future with the UNest app.
Wow. Thanks, Grandpa.
Don't just give them any gift. Give them a gift that can grow with them. Invite grandparents and family friends to contribute to your child's future with the UNest app. UNest is an investment account for kids that makes it easy to gift funds that can be used for college tuition, their first home, and more, just by sharing a link. Or include a UNest QR code on party invitations for birthdays and holidays. For a limited time, download the UNest app and use the code IHEART50 at sign-up to receive a $50 bonus when you fund your account. That's code IHEART50 when you sign up at unest.co for a $50 bonus. See terms and conditions at unest.co.
It's interesting, too, when you were talking about your claircognizance, you went straight to clairsentience. I felt it in my gut. I always notice, because you're using both of your gifts in tandem, and that's what I want to point out for people is I just know it, but I feel it in my gut. Have you had stomach and digestion issues?
No, the only issues I have is headaches.
The gut is connected to the brain. And a healthy gut actually helps with brain health. But I was curious because sometimes when we have digestion issues, stuff in the gut, it can actually prohibit our gut instincts, our clear intuition. And so obviously, and that's one of the things I was pointing out, is you don't have digestion issues often, and not that you don't experience those, but it's not something that's chronic for you or a go-to as far as an Achilles heel in your body when you're experiencing stress or trauma or, whatever may arise out of day-to-day living and events that occur. But having the healthy gut gave you the ability to feel those instincts. Can you talk a little bit about developing and following both your claircognizance and your clairsentience? How about professionally? You've made some changes over the past couple of years in your role professionally, and being able to use your voice and your instincts in your professional life.
So I work in the medical field. I deal with a lot of breast cancer patients, and I tap into knowing that what they are going through is quite traumatic. And I try to give them that positivity and letting them know that trying to have that positive mindset, even though this is a traumatic event in your life, and guiding them through that really helps them. Like having affirmations are huge for me. And I have a lot of patients that actually they do the Reiki, and they have the affirmations, and they say that just having that positive mindset while going through such a traumatic event in their life helps them tremendously. I mean, everybody, they have their bad days. I let them know you can have your bad days. You can cry, you can be sad. You're entitled to that. You have to feel it, but trying to revert back to that positive mindset and knowing that things will eventually get better really helps them.
When you are connected with patients, do you sometimes feel their energy or take on their energy? How does that show up for you?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I can tell they come in, and I let them know when they come in that if they're having a bad day and they want to cry, they can cry.
Do you usually sense that when somebody comes in? I mean, I know that there's body language. How do you feel it? How do you know it?
I would say I feel it in my gut. Like when I'm bringing them back, I can tell that something is off with them, that, either they're having a really bad day and they try to hold it in, and I let them know that they can cry, and often they do.
That's amazing. And it's so hard too. I've just walked a pretty massive breast cancer journey with my mother, and she definitely believed in, had a tremendous faith, but the power of intention, the power of positive thinking, mind over matter. And she expanded her life through her metastatic breast cancer journey much beyond what was clinically diagnosed and predicted. And quality of life was incredible. But we had an excellent physician team and, of course, hospice team in the last year that really held space for the emotional component of things. And I think having intuitive healthcare workers, which it sounds like that's what so much of how you show up in your professional life, is trusting your intuition to be able to comfortably say to a patient, what's going on today? Are you struggling? Let's sit down a minute, before the physician comes in, giving them the space to process what's going on in real time. And I know that has to be invaluable because I've been on the other side of that with so many of the incredible medical staff. And I find that the ones that are able to communicate their intuitive feelings and show that compassion through their intuition, it makes a big difference in the healing journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I try to have that compassion with them. You see this component of where they walk in, and some patients have their spouse with them every single appointment. Some patients come in alone every single appointment and are going through this journey all by themselves.
And that's probably more, I know that, personally, I don't know how people do it, but they do. And I know that walking through this with my mother, even when we lived out of the country, because she had gotten better, but she was still had regular appointments, she had support, and also the support of the clinical staff. So the appointments that she went to by herself, I knew the quality of that staff, their intentionality, and also their attentiveness. And that really shows up. It also makes me think, going back to your gut instincts, this is a little bit of a different trajectory, but you really listening to your gut, feeling it, and then having the courage to say it. That's a huge part of what you're communicating, is feeling those gut instincts, knowing them, and then having the courage to communicate. And showing up for patients that way is such a practical way to demonstrate your intuitive gifts, but also your clinical gifts, and then practicing active listening, holding space, compassion. I can imagine just makes the whole process for the patient more integrative and healing. I know that you recently, going back to grounding, being out in nature, we were talking about your mom, and you've done a tremendous amount of healing work around your mother, who you mentioned committed suicide 12 years ago. And there were a lot of unanswered questions, things unsaid, old pain, old trauma, unreconciled. And you've done a tremendous amount of healing personally, spiritually, but you've been able to connect with her and heal things from the other side with her that maybe wouldn't have happened in real time in our human body with all of our frailties and challenges that we have as human beings, the messiness. Can you talk a little bit? I know you said you were out hiking and you've been talking to your mom, but just a little bit about your journey in healing old traumas with your mom through the development of your intuition, but also developing your mediumship skills to communicate with your mother.
Yeah, again, I think it reverts back to science.
I knew you were going to say science. I was like, I knew she was going to go right to science, not because I'm psychic, but I mean, that's a huge cornerstone. And I think for anyone, listening to this podcast, we all look for signs, asking for the signs, looking and learning to trust them. You build this rapport. And the more signs you ask for, the more receptive you are, the more that they come. It's remembering to ask.
Absolutely.
And that we can ask for a sign for anything at any time. We have this massive, massive choir of guides and spirits, and not just the loved ones we know that we've lost on the other side, but just choirs of angels and guides waiting for us to say, hey, show me, help me. I need support. Of course, alongside of God.
Yeah. And that's my go-to. I mean, and you've taught me a lot about that. I do have certain signs that I ask for from my mother. Dragonflies are a big thing. And my husband, who is a non-believer in any of this stuff, he's starting to believe it more so, especially since I've been talking to you. He's starting to dive into it more. But I remember, this is maybe a year after my mother had passed. We were in Germany and I was outside. I was mowing the grass, and my younger son, he was probably 6 or 7 at the time. But there was this massive dragonfly that had come by, and I had asked for a sign from my mother for a dragonfly. And I had not seen one before. And this massive dragonfly comes by. And then my son's yelling at me. He's like, Mom, there's this big dragonfly. So I stopped the lawnmower and I look, and this dragonfly comes by again. And then my husband came home from work and I was telling him about it. He's like, oh, whatever. Like, as I'm telling him about this huge dragonfly comes by, and he's like, okay, like there has to be something. That kind of opened him up to believing that there's something else. And then I also have the story of, I don't know if I told you about this, Amanda, or not, but I was sitting outside. I was having a glass of wine sitting on our back deck, and I was listening to some music, and I reached down and picked up my phone, and I had asked his grandmother for a sign for a rainbow. Well, there was a rainbow that day, and I was like, okay, let me get another sign that you're okay. And I picked up my phone. I was changing the music, and all of a sudden, like maybe 20 yards from me, we had a fire pit, and there's this massive owl on the fire pit, like huge owl looking away from me. And I'm like, how did this owl come in? And I didn't see it. And then we have a lab as well. The lab didn't move, and he's a bird dog. Like, he kills birds all the time. And so I picked up my phone and I started taking pictures. And so this owl flew away, and I saw it fly behind this tree. And then I never saw it again. Never saw an owl before, never saw an owl since. And so I went inside and told my husband, I was like, there was this huge owl, like right in front of me. I didn't hear it come in. And he's like, oh, my grandma loved owls. She collected owls. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, she collected owls. I thought he was messing with me. Whatever. And then he's like, no, seriously, she loved owls. So I went through, looked at my phone, and I have a picture of this owl flying away. And I'll have to send it to you, Amanda, but it's like an apparition. It's kind of like ashes in the shape of an owl flying away. And I'm not a technology person. I did not edit these. Like, anybody that knows me knows that I'm not good with technology. It's amazing. It's like an apparition of this owl just flying away.
Going places? Roam in style. Welcome to Roam Luggage, where your travel luggage transforms into a canvas for your unique style. Got the hint? Excellent! With Roam, you're the designer. Choose your colors and we will craft your bags with the finest materials in the world and assemble it in our U.S. workshop. Visit RoamLuggage.com today and get 10% off with the code ROAM4U. Buy 2 or more pieces and get an additional 10% off. That's ROAM Luggage.com.
You're ready for a comeback. And with Purdue Global, you can do more than take classes. You can take charge of your story, of your career, of your life. Earn a degree you can be proud of and get an education employers respect. It's time, your time, not just to go back to school, but to come back and move forward with Purdue Global, Purdue's online university for working adults. Start your comeback at purdueglobal.edu.
He'll forget about the video game you gave him on his birthday,
Wow! Thanks, Grandpa.
but he'll never forget how you invested in his future with the UNest app.
Wow. Thanks, Grandpa.
Don't just give them any gift. Give them a gift that can grow with them. Invite grandparents and family friends to contribute to your child's future with the UNest app. UNest is an investment account for kids that makes it easy to gift funds that can be used for college tuition, their first home, and more, just by sharing a link. Or include a UNest QR code on party invitations for birthdays and holidays. For a limited time, download the UNest app and use the code IHEART50 at sign up to receive a $50 bonus when you fund your account. That's code IHEART50 when you sign up at unest.co for a $50 bonus. See terms and conditions at unest.co.
You know, owls represent magic.
Yeah.
That essentially they represent the ability for light and dark, which we can't have the light without the darkness or the darkness without the light, which is really a way of looking within. And we all have qualities of both. And owls, you know, they're very ominous and they can give us these omens, but there's something magical and mystical about that story and you not knowing, which is amazing. Thank you for sharing that. The other thing I love about this is with your husband, because this is something everyone, I think a lot of people can relate to. And I've encountered lots of clients over the years who worry about either spouses or family members when they are working on their intuitive development. What if people don't believe me? What if they think I'm weird? What if they make fun of me? And I've certainly gone through phases where, you know, people questioned what I was doing or the development of my intuitive gifts. But so much of it is being able to trust in God, to trust myself, trust my soul, and it not be contingent on what someone else thinks or believes. And it's not about me changing anyone's mind or heart or beliefs. It's just about me honoring what I'm seeking, what I am searching. And I know that has been a journey for you with you and your husband. And like you said, you know, it's not your goal to have him come around and believe what you believe, because that's not who you are. But it's really more like attraction rather than promotion. It's when he sees these things firing and wiring and clicking in your life and the signs and synchronicities lighting you up and exciting you, it's sometimes contagious.
I mean, he was so close-minded before where he was like, oh, I don't believe in any of this. And now he's starting to be more receptive. I mean, I truly believe, you know, there's other realms, there's other sides. When we pass away, we go somewhere else. There's more to life than just being here on earth.
Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today and your experience. I think more than anything, what resonates so much is asking for signs, looking for them, and then believing them when they come. And that building traction, because it takes practice, because just like your first sign that you said, you know, I asked for a ladybug and a week later, ladybug was written on a sign and then you just dismiss it as, that's just a coincidence. No, I was just looking for it. And then to see that Beetle, that Volkswagen Beetle painted like a ladybug, you know, very soon thereafter, that's when the universe says, God says, you know, spirits say, your mom, that was your mom, says, no, I really am here. And being able to follow those signs. I also like what you brought up about the power of intention, affirmations, really the power of our minds, how the clearer we get in our intentionality, looking for meaning, searching for purpose, searching for healing, whatever that searching is. And you're very much a seeker and a searcher, searching for understanding or alignment, whatever that may be, that searching, but through setting intentions, affirmations, also grounding. I think grounding was a great thing that you brought up as another practical tool for anyone wanting to cultivate their intuition. Grounding doesn't necessarily mean you're just going to, boom, get a lightning strike or a lightning bolt from God, but it adds up. The more that you ground, the more that you get present, the more that we get out in nature, that we sync ourselves with the natural world versus being on the phone and all this technology and these, you know, radio frequencies, magnetic frequencies that really do mess with our natural flow our natural alignment, our natural energy. It's important to reset that. And I think those are really important things that you brought up in the development of your intuition. It's been really helpful and so great to just get your feedback and your wisdom and your experience. I think there's a lot of really good nuggets of wisdom. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
I've learned so much from you. Everything kind of reverts back to you. When I first started with this journey, I had heard you on the radio. And to me, again, that was a sign from my mom, like, to reach out, and I remember I had a session with you and I was like, and then you have this program that's more involved. And so I joined that program and I've gotten so many tools from you on how to navigate life and tap into these gifts, your intuition and your psychic abilities and so forth. And I think just learning how to navigate those helps you through these difficult times, not only the difficult times, but also the positive times in your life, continuing on that journey through life, and using these tools have been a tremendous help. There's no way I could have gone through these past few years without your help.
Thank you I very much received. I appreciate it. So much of that too is you being willing to show up and then me being able to be a conduit or a vessel for your soul, for your higher self to come through and reflect back the tools and resources at the point in time that you're ready to utilize, ready to incorporate. Because sometimes I know for me, certain tools and resources may not resonate at that moment, but a year later, they may resonate. So that's what I find in working with people and anyone out there, getting a good spiritual guide, a spiritual mentor, a personal development coach, anybody who can help hold space for you, keep you accountable. Accountability is a big thing, right? That for me is something that even when I don't want to be accountable in my own personal and spiritual development, I do it because it's the practice that creates the progress. And, even the days I don't want to, when I do the things that I know nourish me and I'm accountable to my spiritual practice, it grows. And it adds value in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, your willingness, I think the willingness is a big piece too in developing intuition for anybody out there. Apart from asking for signs and grounding and some of the practical things, it's this willingness to be open, to stop, look, and listen, and also to hear the things we may not want to hear. We don't always get the answers that we want because sometimes the answers that we want are not the answers that we need. Not to be trite, but that is a big noble truth. So true. And so developing your intuition isn't for the faint of heart. It is for the courageous, I think, and being dedicated to intuitive development. And again, with you, it, like many people that I've seen, it can lead into mediumship gifts and abilities, and it spills over into relationships, professional life, your health and wellness, battling an illness or some kind of chronic disease. When you develop your intuition, that can also create healing or create deepening of insights around whatever the disease is and ways to navigate that are specific to, your personal disease journey and process. There are just so many ways it can spill over. So I appreciate you sharing that. And I'm so glad to be on this journey together and to learn these new insights. So thank you so much for joining me, being willing to share and be vulnerable, dive deep. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate you.
Everyone out there, thank you so much for joining me, Amanda Rieger Green with Soul Sessions. If you're wanting to dive more into your intuitive development, I've got a great blog. It's called The Clairs, the 4 Types of Intuition. So jump onto soulpathology.com and to go to the blog page and you'll find that blog. It breaks those different types of intuition down. We have exciting guests, exciting conversations, tools, tips, and resources to support your spiritual and personal development.
Okay, before we go, does anyone need to use the bathroom?
Nope.
Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
You're sure you're sure?
Yep.
There are some things in life you can't trust.
Mommy?
Oh, come on. And there are some things you can, like the HP Smart Tank printer. With up to 2 years of ink included and outstanding print quality, you can always rely on the HP Smart Tank. From HP, America's most trusted printer brand. Available at Amazon.
Ever thought your luggage could reflect your style? Well, the founders of Toomey did, and that's how Rome Luggage was born. It's where superior construction meets effortless mobility, thanks to the smoothest wheels you'll ever encounter, lightest shells, and watertight zippers. Each piece is handcrafted in the U.S. with an unwavering focus on quality. But the fun doesn't stop there. You get to play designer, choosing colors that resonate with you. Your Rome Luggage becomes your personalized travel statement. And a little insider tip, get yourself 2 or more bags. You'll score a sweet 10% off, no code needed. Just go to ROAMluggage.com.
How long was Neil Armstrong actually on the moon? When did Europe start speaking English? Did Marco Polo really go to China? CuriosityStream is the streaming service for all things history, plus science, wildlife, and more. What's the real story behind the Mona Lisa? We've got that. What caused the collapse of Rome? We know. Where did we find mankind's earliest ancestor? Come find out. From Egypt to Einstein, CuriosityStream is the place for history. With monthly, annual, and bundled plans, find one for you at curiositystream.com.